Hello everybody, my name is Tina Benias and welcome to my very first course, Digital Mastery Academy. I'm so incredibly excited that you're here because it means that you've got that fire inside of you that I have as well, and you're ready to step out from your current situation and make a change, whether it's sidestep from your current career or to actually launch a brand new business that you've had inside of you for a really, really long time. So it's an incredible thing to commit to purchasing this course to learn how to do that for yourself. And I'm so happy that you chose me to do it with you. For the first video, I thought I would introduce myself and explain why I started the Digital Mastery Academy and how I ended up to be here where I am today. So my name is Tina, I am Australian and I'm currently living in Venice in Italy. So 2 years ago at the time of recording this video, so back in 2016, I had an amazing corporate job working for one of Australia's top banks as a copywriter and a content manager. Now this job was my absolute dream job. I'd waited a really, really long time and worked very hard to be able to call myself a paid writer because I'd always been writing in my personal time. I'd had blogs, I'd had other businesses, but this was the first time where my full-time job title actually reflected the thing that I was most passionate about. So I became a writer. I had an amazing salary, I was living in Sydney, and everything on the outside was perfect, but I was incredibly depressed. I, for some reason, hated the lifestyle that I'd stepped into. Not to say that I hated my job because I still incredibly loved writing, but what I hated was the confines of the office, the lack of creativity, sitting at my desk every day, having to get up at really early in the morning and, just slog it into the office. And there was this moment when I was living in Sydney, one specific moment for me that changed everything, which much like what it does for, anybody, there's always this one specific moment where everything seems to change. And I just stepped off the train and I'd gone up the escalators out onto the main street. It was early, I was starting my shift at 9 o'clock and it was raining. And everybody, as we all walked out, this huge pack of people, we all walked out onto the street and everyone popped up their umbrellas, and I'd actually forgotten my umbrella that day. And so I was sort of mushed in between this crowd of people, and for a second there I stopped and I realized everybody was pretty much dressed the same. Everybody was walking with a huge coffee in their hand. Everybody had a similar umbrella and we were all walking in the same direction. And it kind of made me feel sick, because I felt like I was a sheep in this herd of people and I was just another number on the street. I was another pedestrian. I was another office worker. I wasn't anybody special. I just felt stuck. And then after a few seconds of thinking, people started to bump into me because I was obstructing the flow of the crowd. So I, hustled on down the street without an umbrella. Nobody offered for me to stand under their umbrella, but that's another story. And I just got to my desk upstairs and realized that I really, really wasn't happy and that the money wasn't good enough to sacrifice my happiness. And I really felt, I still feel sometimes when I say that the money wasn't good enough to sacrifice my happiness. It makes me feel perhaps that I sound ungrateful for the opportunity that I was given. And I'm definitely not ungrateful, but I just decided in that moment that I didn't want to waste whatever time in my life I had sitting at a desk being incredibly unhappy. So not long after that, I ended up quitting that job without a plan, without a backup. I wasn't a freelancer. I'd never freelanced before. I hadn't put any wheels in motion to learn how to freelance. I just ended up quitting and moved overseas into Italy with my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband. So that was how I ended up becoming a freelancer. But I definitely wasn't a freelancer at that time. The months that followed, I was pretty much out of work. I had some random jobs popped up here and there with an agency that I connected with just before I left Sydney, and they'd sent me a couple of writing jobs, but I didn't know how to manage my time. I didn't know what was appropriate to quote on. I didn't know what kind of work was expected of me very clearly, or what the expectation was of the people who were working with me, what my availability was supposed to be, what my turnaround was supposed to be, where my boundaries were. It all became incredibly confusing because I was working with companies in Australia, but at that time I was in Spain, and the boundaries were just becoming blurred. And then the worst possible thing that could ever happen to a remote worker happened to me. I didn't have any Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi. Nothing. This place that we were staying in had no Wi-Fi. So I was going to a cafe, one of the few cafes in the area that we lived in, every second day, and I would stay there for 3 or 4 hours to use their Wi-Fi while drinking multiple cups of coffee because I felt guilty. It wasn't normal to see people on laptops where I was. It wasn't like Australia where you could go to any coffee shop and someone would be there on their laptop and it would be all fine. Here it was weird. People would look at me like, what is this girl doing on her laptop in the middle of a cafe? I felt incredibly guilty, and at that time I ended up losing those connections that I had because I couldn't deliver the work. What followed was probably it was the hardest time of my life. I had no job for 3 months in total. I had no income, nothing. My husband also ended up quitting his job in Spain, and we both moved back to Italy, and this was just before Christmas. So it was in the middle of winter, nobody was hiring because it was Christmas, and there was one really, really big problem for me was that I don't speak Italian, and I definitely didn't understand any Italian at this time. So I couldn't find any work. I had nothing. Everything fell apart. I had to go back to Australia for 3 months while my husband stayed here to settle into a new job up in Venice, which is where I am now. And it wasn't until I got back to Australia that I sort of overcome some of the challenges that I'd had. After reading thousands of blogs, and I do say thousands because it's amazing what you can do with your time when you have no job in 3 months. I did so much research, and I finally learned that the best possible way for me to stand out as a writer and to find jobs was that I had to brand myself. Hence this course. So now 18 months later, I'm finally very successful in my freelance work. I have multiple clients all over the world. We're still based in Australia, some in Italy, some in America, and I'm finally generating an income. And I think that I started this Digital Mastery Academy because I keep getting the same questions from my clients. And I think it's so incredibly important that if you are dreaming of creating a job outside or creating a business for yourself or a new career, or you want to become location independent like I am, then it's incredibly important to learn how to brand yourself. And it is the most exciting time because it's so easy and technology is so accessible now that you'll be able to take what I teach you in this course and spread it across multiple channels to build a brand for yourself. And with the tenacity and the hard work that I know you have inside of you, you'll be able to create your dream business. So that's enough about me. I feel like I've just talked your ear off for way too long. So let's head into the next video and actually get started.